Have you ever felt like everything around you is falling apart, even when you're trying to do everything right? Maybe you've wondered why you suddenly feel so tired, unmotivated, or even isolated from others. These feelings aren't just coincidences or figments of your imagination. The truth is, as hard as it may be to believe, you might be in the middle of a spiritual battle. Yes, an invisible war that directly affects your life, your emotions, and even your relationships. And the worst part? Often it starts silently without you noticing. But what if I told you that there are clear signs that you're under spiritual attack and, more importantly, that there is a way to fight it? In this text, you'll discover how to identify these signs and what to do to regain control of your spiritual life, emerging victorious in this battle. The reflection begins with a testimony that leaves no doubt about the seriousness of the spiritual battle. A man named Ziza faced a life-and-death situation when a bull weighing over 800 kilograms attacked him. It wasn't just a physical incident, but a true warning about how spiritual attacks can be as unexpected as they are devastating. One moment, Ziza was taking care of his daily chores, and the next, he was crying out for his life. This reminds us that the spiritual battle doesn't announce its arrival. It simply happens, catching us by surprise, just like the bull's attack. This experience is not just a story of survival, but a clear example of how life can change in the blink of an eye. When Ziza, a man accustomed to hard work and animal care, found himself at the mercy of that bull, it was the moment when his faith was tested. He knew it wasn't just a physical battle, but a spiritual one as well. In such situations, realizing that we are in a spiritual battle can make the difference between succumbing or fighting with all the strength we have left. Ziza's story serves as a powerful reminder that we need to stay alert, because the spiritual battle can manifest in the most mundane moments. The gravity of this testimony lies not just in the event itself, but in the lesson it brings. Often, we are so immersed in our routines that we don't notice the signs of an impending spiritual battle. Ziza was doing something seemingly trivial, and yet he was unexpectedly attacked. This shows us that we must always be vigilant, strengthening our faith daily, because the spiritual battle can find us in the most ordinary places. And when we least expect it, we are called to fight. It was an ordinary afternoon when Ziza, a dedicated man accustomed to working in the fields, decided to do something that wasn't in his plans for that day. He resolved to check on one of the bulls he was raising, an imposing animal weighing over 800 kilograms. For no apparent reason, he felt that he should inspect the animal, even though he could have left it for another time. Upon entering the pen, the situation took an unexpected turn. The bull, in a sudden attack, threw him to the ground with a fierce headbutt. In that instant, reality distorted, and Ziza realized he was in a battle for his own life, a battle that went beyond the physical. As he tried to catch his breath and regain consciousness, Ziza understood that this wasn't just an incident. It was as if, suddenly, he was in the middle of a spiritual battle, where forces beyond the visible were at play. Ziza, who had always been a man of faith, found himself compelled to fight with all his might, not just against the weight of the bull, but against the despair that tried to overwhelm him. He prayed, asking God to give him the strength to survive and reach his home, where his wife could find him. This crucial moment showed that sometimes the spiritual battle manifests when we least expect it, pushing us to our limits. What happened to Ziza in that pen wasn't just an isolated event. His story makes us think about how we can be vulnerable to spiritual battles in moments of our daily lives, often without realizing it. He was performing a routine task, something simple, but was brutally surprised. This experience serves as a warning. We need to always be ready, because spiritual battles can find us in the most unexpected moments. And when that happens, we are forced to face challenges that test our faith and our ability to resist. Life, in its essence, is a great spiritual battle. Often, we go about our days without realizing that we are in an invisible battlefield. Everything seems normal until suddenly something happens, and we realize we've been hit. It's like walking on a calm road and, out of nowhere, being caught in a violent storm. This is the nature of spiritual battle. It unfolds silently, without warning, until it becomes impossible to ignore. And it's at that moment that we understand that we are not just living. We are fighting. But how do we identify this spiritual battle? Often, it manifests in subtle ways, like a series of events that challenge our faith or pull us away from our purpose. It could be that inexplicable discouragement that prevents us from praying or the recurring difficulties that sap our strength and determination. Spiritual battle is not a matter of bad luck or coincidence. It is a constant struggle between forces that want to draw us closer to or away from our spiritual path. Understanding this reality is the first step to not being caught off guard. By recognizing that life is a spiritual battle, we begin to prepare for it. This means strengthening our spirit, being constantly vigilant, and never underestimating the small daily struggles. Just as a warrior prepares for combat, we need to equip our minds and hearts to face the attacks that will come. The spiritual battle doesn't choose time or place. It just happens, and it's up to us to be ready to resist. And by understanding this dynamic, we realize that we are always in a position of defense or attack, and we can never let our guard down. There are times when life seems more difficult than usual, and often, this is a sign that we are under spiritual attack. One of the first signs of this invisible battle is the loss of spiritual desire. That desire to pray, to seek God, to engage in spiritual activities simply disappears. What used to bring joy now feels like a burden. This is the first indication that something greater is at play, and we need to be alert. When we notice that the flame of our faith begins to dim, it's a clear warning that the spiritual battle is underway. Another evident sign of a spiritual attack is fatigue that seems to have no explanation. We're not talking about physical tiredness after a day of work, but a weariness that affects body, mind, and soul. We wake up tired, without energy to face the day, and this state of exhaustion prevents us from drawing strength from God. This type of fatigue is a direct attack on our ability to resist, gradually sapping our spiritual strength. It's a strategy of the enemy to leave us vulnerable, and recognizing this is essential to avoid being defeated. Moreover, the return of old habits, those we thought we had left behind, can be a sign that we are under spiritual attack. That temptation we thought we had overcome begins to reemerge, subtly wrapping us up again. These old habits come back strong, and if we are not careful, we can fall into the trap of thinking they are harmless. However, they are a way of pulling us away from our spiritual purpose and trapping us in cycles that weaken us. When these signs appear, it's a clear reminder that the spiritual battle is happening, and we need to react quickly. Prayer is a powerful weapon in spiritual battle, perhaps the most crucial of all. Many people underestimate its power, thinking it's something reserved only for moments of crisis. However, the truth is that prayer should be an integral part of our routine, just like breathing. It connects us directly with God, strengthens us, and gives us clarity to discern the spiritual attacks we face. When we stop praying, we lower our guard and become easy targets. Therefore, it is essential to cultivate a constant prayer life, to always be prepared for the spiritual battle. Although prayer is powerful, it is not easy. It requires discipline, persistence, and, often, courage. It's not always comfortable to kneel and pour our hearts out to God, especially when we're tired or discouraged. But it is precisely in these moments that prayer becomes most necessary. When we face a spiritual battle, it is through prayer that we find the strength to keep fighting. It is our refuge, our fortress in the midst of chaos. And just as a soldier does not go to war without his weapons, we should not face life's challenges without praying. Additionally, prayer helps us stay focused on God, even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. It reminds us that we are not alone in the spiritual battle and that there is a greater power sustaining us. When we pray, we surrender our struggles to God, trusting that He is in control. This trust is what gives us peace in the midst of the storm, allowing us to face any situation with the certainty that, no matter how difficult the battle, we already have the victory guaranteed. Prayer is, therefore, more than a spiritual practice. It is an act of resistance and unwavering faith. In spiritual battle, one of the greatest traps is isolation. When we distance ourselves from those who love and support us, we become more vulnerable to spiritual attacks. It's easy to think we can handle everything on our own, but the truth is that we need a community to strengthen us. Having people around us who share the same faith and values gives us the necessary strength to face difficulties. Just as an army marches together, in the spiritual battle, we need allies to fight alongside us, to lift us up when we fall, and to remind us that we are not alone in this journey. The relationships we cultivate in the community are essential for our spiritual growth. They serve as a support that keeps us steady, especially in moments of weakness. When we are in a spiritual battle, it is the community that helps us keep the faith, offers words of encouragement, and guides us back to the right path. It is in this exchange of experiences and mutual support that we find the strength to continue. Therefore, it is vital to invest time and energy in building and maintaining these bonds. Participating in study groups, sharing our struggles and victories, and praying together are practical ways to strengthen this support network. Furthermore, the community protects us from getting lost in our own thoughts and fears. When we are surrounded by people who care about us, we have the chance to see things from a different perspective. They can help us identify the signs of a spiritual battle that we may not be seeing. By staying connected with others, we are creating a collective shield against spiritual attacks. And by being part of a community, we also have the opportunity to be that support for others, creating a cycle of mutual strengthening that makes us more resilient in the face of challenges. When we find ourselves in the midst of a spiritual battle, knowing how to act is crucial to coming out victorious. The first thing to do is to strengthen our connection with God. This can be done through daily Bible reading, meditation on the scriptures, and the constant practice of prayer. Each of these actions fills us with wisdom and discernment, preparing us to face the difficulties that may arise. For example, reading Psalm 9:1 can bring comfort and protection in times of distress, reminding us that God is our refuge and strength. These practices are like shields that protect us from the attacks that try to lead us astray. Another powerful strategy in the spiritual battle is surrounding yourself with people who share the same faith and can offer support and encouragement. Staying active in a faith community is essential. Participating in Bible study groups, engaging in activities that promote spiritual well-being, and being present in moments of collective worship are practical ways to strengthen your spirit. These moments not only reinforce our faith, but also remind us that we are not alone in the fight. Just as a soldier needs his comrades in arms, we too need our brothers and sisters in faith to support us. Finally, it is important to remember that the spiritual battle is not won by willpower alone, but by wisdom and action. This means identifying the moments when we are most vulnerable and taking practical steps to protect ourselves. If discouragement begins to set in, for example, it's time to intensify prayer and seek spiritual guidance. We cannot underestimate the power of small gestures, such as declaring words of faith out loud or keeping a spiritual journal where we record our struggles and victories. Each of these actions brings us closer to victory and keeps us firm on the right path, even when the battle seems most intense. So, are you ready to recognize the signs of a spiritual attack in your life? What are you going to do now that you know how to identify the traps that may be sapping your spiritual strength? Remember, it's not enough just to understand what's happening. You have to act. Are you willing to strengthen your daily prayer, to connect more deeply with your faith community, and to protect yourself against the invisible attacks that threaten your peace? The choice is yours, and so are the consequences. If you truly want to change your life and emerge victorious in the spiritual battle, start now. Don't put off until tomorrow what could be the key to your victory today. And if you want to keep learning and strengthening yourself on this journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any important tips to win this and other battles that may arise. Let's go on this journey together.